Hi, welcome to Trina's Bag. As you've guessed by now, I'm not Trina and I'm not a bag. But we just thought we'd make a quick video on a subject that seems to be popular at the moment.
The new text has just arrived in your
Guess who's busy? Right, so education, employment, the world of. I feel very strongly about this because I feel that I was guided wrongly just because of academic ability down the academic route when it wasn't necessarily right for me. I was told at school I was clever enough to go to college. I was told at college I was clever enough to go to university. I was wrongly told at 16 that I should do A-levels when I actually wanted to do a BTEC, more vocational qualification in engineering. This led eventually to me, in the short term, being quite disillusioned with education because I was doing things that I didn't want to do. I was studying things at a level that wasn't really in line with what I wanted to be doing. So here's something to ponder. The class system still exists whether we like it or not. But the good news is people have a choice. Both ways round, somebody from a disadvantaged background can achieve great things, either academically or business-wise. Similarly, people who have been given the right to an academic education sometimes still make decisions to be technically working class because they don't want to take too much responsibility, they want to be able to clock off and go home at 5 o'clock and not worry about anything. So those choices exist. Those choices need to be considered, I think, when you take your path at 16 years old. And the irony of the situation is admissions tutors and careers teachers, ironically, have only ever been educated academically and been in a conventional job with a salary framework. So they're not really qualified to be discussing anything outside of that. So if you were to ask an admissions tutor whether you should go to college, they're going to say yes. And if you ask a careers teacher about the pros and cons of being self-employed, they'll say, oh, that's dangerous, it's a big gamble, go for a regular job. So the good old-fashioned theory of get an education, get a good job, get a mortgage, buy a house, still exists if that path is right for you. But there are too many alternatives to that to explore. And I think the key thing at 16 years old is to be getting out there into the environment and developing a more rigid picture of what it is that you want to do. Because unfortunately, in the education system, you constantly put under pressure to make decisions about your future when you don't know enough to make those decisions. So 13-year-olds are already thinking about what A-levels they want to do to have to pick the GCSEs. 16-year-olds are already thinking about what degree to do to select either A-levels or a vocational qualification that could still lead to a degree, or whether they go looking for an apprenticeship. Again, depending on the life goal, but information is important. And if you can't get the information from a careers teacher, and you can't get the information from an admissions tutor, where do you go? Well, I've found the solution to all these problems is to get out into the community and volunteer. And again, there are lots of different pathways and they lead to different things. If you volunteer in a charity shop, your experiences are going to be limited, unfortunately, to customer contact and a retail environment. It's very unlikely that you're going to come into contact with other influential people when you're primarily just dealing with your line manager and the general public. If you volunteer at a community centre, you could find yourself working in all sorts of spheres, from the day-to-day administration and organisation and running of a building such as a community centre. You could find yourself dipping into some of the services that community centres offer, such as adult education, various support systems such as National Careers Service, Sure Start, lots of things for single parents that are delivered through community centres, like over 50s IT education, all sorts of things like that that are delivered through community centres that you might not come into contact with in another environment. And then there's the other wider community type volunteering that is somehow more difficult to get involved in. You have to be aware of the opportunities when they cross your path. So my most productive volunteering is to get involved in our local town. Because of the nature of the town, there are lots of opportunities. I'm involved in Helston Town Tidy. I'm involved in a subgroup of the local business partnership called the Aesthetics Group, of which Helston Town Tidy is a part. I'm also involved in Helston Christmas Lights. Now what this gives me that the other two options don't is I'm volunteering with prominent business people. Now within the community centre you can be stood shoulder to shoulder with maybe representatives of the council, representatives of a local housing trust, and yes, these people have valuable lessons to impart. And the key is the people that you hang around with are important, because life lessons come from people you hang around with. And even as a 16-year-old, there's a huge benefit to maybe being in a community centre with mature people than sitting in a bus shelter passing the time, because you're going to learn something. But coming back to volunteering in the community, as I've just described, you're meeting influential business people who have more significant lessons to teach, without even knowing it, to be quite honest. I've learned things from people without even them realising that they're teaching me something. Back in my days as a factory manager, I used to look over the shoulder of the electrician, I used to look over the shoulder of the engineer. I made friends with these people, built relationships with these people, and learned lots of things. I progressed through the company because I showed an interest in other people's jobs. The luxury I had at the time was I was quality assurance manager, so I used to audit processes within the company, so I knew pretty much everything from top to bottom of how the company worked, which was a huge learning experience, resulting in my eventually running the entire production facility. Jim Rohn, a great self-development mentor, says you are the sum total of the 5 people you hang around with the most. If you want to be very mercenary, for example, and you just have this idea that you want to be a millionaire, hang around with millionaires, or at least make one of your 5 key people a millionaire. If you want to be a celebrity or a model or whatever, hang around with that group of people. But coming back to the 16-year-old's dilemma, they might not even know what they wanted to be. When I was younger than 16, I wanted to be a train driver. Strangely enough, I have friends who were friends at the time then who have been train drivers. The novelty wore off for me, because I was actually more interested in maybe the engineering beneath the train rather than actually driving it. I keep wandering off on little tangents here. Just remind me. Sorry, they always turn into weird type rants. But at the early stages, we need to give.
You were saying what you wanted to do.
Yeah, we need to give the youth of today more opportunities to learn about what there is out there. A careers teacher might give you an A4 sheet with a list of stereotypical jobs.
But they're following a curriculum at the end of the day, just like the students are.
They're teaching a curriculum just like any other teacher would. and they're imparting standardised information. Standardised information is only the tip of the iceberg as far as the world of work and the world of business is concerned. A careers teacher, if they've never been self-employed or never run a business, will not really be able to speak
That's
to you.
highly
adequately.
unlikely that they have done.
Speak to you adequately on the subject. So, tips to the youth of today is to get out and about and learn things and put themselves in an environment where they might come across a job that they never even knew existed. And at that stage in life, when potentially you're volunteering, so you can always say yes or no, I'm not doing this anymore, you've got the chance to find something that sparks a passion. Because the best thing you can hope for in life is to have a job, no, not a job, a source of income that you enjoy, you love with a passion, because it makes it so much easier. If you love what you do, you will be more successful
And not one that you just
more productive.
have to wake up to go to
If
work
you
at
hate
9
your
and come
job,
home at 5.
If you hate your job, you treat it as a 9 to 5, you'll only ever achieve what people who think like that get. So, should we be academically educated? Well, that very much depends on your chosen path. It very much depends on the type of person you are. You may be a rebel at 16 and not want to progress in education. You may want to come back to it at 40 years old. You may be the opposite, like me, who was pushed down the academic route and then steered away from it. Most of what I've learned in the last 7 years on the subject of business and self-development has been far more helpful than anything I ever learned in the academic world. However, if I hadn't studied quality assurance as part of my engineering academic information, I wouldn't have started on the 14-year path that I had at Foscolour, resulting in me developing ideas for running my own business. So I can't wish for it to be any different. But what I would have wished for, and I've wished for this many times, was the opportunity at 16 years old to take a year out and think about it, or the opportunity at 18 years old to take a year out and think about it. The government's making it a little bit difficult at the moment with the mandatory education till 18 instead of mandatory education till 16.
Obviously, we're only talking about the UK here. We don't know about other countries.
However, there is an opt-out. If at 16 you can find a position that pays you a wage and gives you an accredited educational path, for example, an apprenticeship, you do not have to go to college or school anymore. You could creatively use that as your 1 year out. So at 16 you could go for an apprenticeship. At 17 you still reserve the right to come back into A-level education. If you wanted to go the academic route, you could go shopping around for vocational education. You can get into degree level education at any age. I have studied degree level education at the prescribed age, University of Central Lancashire. I've also attended what was Bolton Institute of Higher Education, which I think is now called Bolton University. I've also done stuff with the Open University, which is more suited to the mature student, but I would say a 19 or 20 year old can consider the Open University, and should possibly do sometimes if they have gone beyond the conventional funding pathway for education. So if they have, in inverted commas, wasted the 2 to 5 years that they should have been continuing in their education from 16 and want to return to education at 21, I would say the first point of call is the Open University. But more importantly, find someone who's doing what you want to do and ask them about it, because they may have arrived at it at that point via a very convoluted route and now know a straighter route to it.
And they'll actually be very flattered that you asked.
But they will be flattered. People love attention. They really do. I mean, there might be some hermits who don't want attention, but Millionaires love to tell you how they made the millions. People who got promoted to operations manager would love to help other people who want to further themselves. It is my life goal to help people improve whatever it is they want to improve. We were talking to a young gentleman yesterday evening with a photographic business. It's a very fledgling business. His passion is photography. What we're helping him with is how to be a businessman and how to turn his passion into a source of income. So that's the other way of doing it. So instead of at 16 focusing on a source of income, i.e. a job, try focusing on your passion and thinking how you're going to arrive at a point where you enjoy getting paid. You don't work to pay a mortgage. You're not a victim or a slave to a mortgage. You are enjoying yourself every day of your life, helping people every day of your life. You could be a postman and live in the dream. Because if your dream is talking to people and walking around enjoying the sunshine and you don't mind a bit of rain, being a postman could be living the dream for you. So I think I'll end on that. Because any job can be a dream job. Any business can be a dream business if everything fits together. Your passion, your knowledge and your income. If you want anything, if you want to listen to me any more on these type of subjects,
just leave comments.
Pop across to our other channel, System to Success, where there's a particular playlist called Ian's Insights.
If they want a video on a
and if you want
subject.
a particular video on a particular subject, leave us a comment and we'll try to answer your questions. Cheers. Bye.